Okay, so let's speed up. This is Scout. Scout is free. I hope you did not hear this joke too many times. And I also hope I do not insult you with this one. It's just to explicitly state that Scout is an Eclipse project and it's free. So it's not some commercial stuff that we do, but it's, as you can see below here, you actually can download it from eclipse.org/download. This is just to make sure that we understand this is an Eclipse project. What is Eclipse Scout? It's a framework for business applications. The strength of it is that it covers everything from client-user interface to server services, basically the point where we attach to existing legacy systems or existing systems around in the environment of an enterprise or where you are. One of the strengths, that's what our topic is today, is the multi-frontent capability. Some of it is already implemented, some of it will be shipped with the Juno release train, and some of it will come with the Kepler release train next year. We have screenshots, some of it we can demonstrate live, others you will have to wait slightly more. There are two main goals for Scout. The first goal is to boost developer productivity. So we want to make sure that the developer actually concentrates on implementing use cases and not on technical details on how to integrate a specific UI technology to have his field or validation or whatever. So you really should be able to concentrate on the work that actually adds benefit to the enterprise. Then the second, also very much important goal for us is that Scout is simple to learn. What we don't want is to have new persons or new hires from university and it takes them 1 or 2 months to become productive members. So internships, when we have them from university and they have some Java background, they typically become productive team members within 1 or 2 weeks on Scout. They don't do the fancy and very complex stuff, but they can do dialogues, they can do validations rules, they can do access of backend services, stuff like that. They may not really understanding what they do, maybe they don't even have an idea what Eclipse is behind the scenes or the Eclipse platform that we're building on top, but this really helps us to keep our revenues. So I'm going to show some screenshots about how Scout applications look like. This, for example, is a desktop application built with SWT. This some visit stuff and some credit card authorization, whatever. There's some visit steps that the user agent can do here. Then another one is, this is our CRM software. This is integrated in Lotus Notes. We can do that as Lotus Notes 8.5 point something is based on top of Eclipse 3.4. So we can smoothly integrate into this Eclipse environment and put our product inside of Lotus Notes and profit from the message bus that is provided by Lotus Notes. So if something happens with emails or so, we can react inside of the CRM to those emails. This is the standard thing that we have. The call center software or close to CRM software with a Swing UI. This shows a bit of the fields that we have. We have smart fields. It's kind of an enhanced drop-down field. We have text fields, we have date fields, we have some fancy image stuff or SVG fields where you can draw whatever. We have some tables and trees. Basically, we have most of the things that are needed in typical business applications. What you don't have is a lot of support to play online role games or really heavy graphic support. This is all we don't have. That's why we say we're a business application framework. This is the web front end of the same software. Here we took a long time and efforts to actually make it look and feel as close as possible to the desktop. So if you compare this one with this one, it does not only look the same, it also behaves the same. Using the context menu, so the only thing that we cannot do is client-side integration of technologies such as Office integration, things that we need to have access on the client. Everything else works pretty much exactly the same as on the desktop. What I can also not do, of course, is basically take this frame and take it outside of the browser, so I cannot have it looking exactly this. But we can live with that, I believe. The next step, so this is what we're going to ship with Juno, the capability to do this. And the next step is with Kepler. This is not Juno, but we started already building it. So we can use the same thing to build software for tablets. It looks very similar, but there's small but important difference. It's still a bit clumsy, but that's because it's not finished yet. What we, for example, do is context menus. Is hard to do on a tablet, which you can only tap with a finger. So instead of having the menu hidden, if you click on this one or tap on this one, you get the possible things that you have in the context menus as buttons so that you can touch on. And the next step, what you're also going to do with the Kepler, is basically the mapping of the same UI behind to the mobile world. So if we have this CRM software here, we have some persons, I believe. Here, this shows a list of persons. Here's a search form where I can search something. And here's my standard view. So I can access all the entities in the CRM from here. I'm here in the standard view as well. So if I click here on person, I will then get the search field. The search field is basically the same as here. But if I have 2 or 3 columns, this has only 1 column. I can type and search something, and I will present it with the list. This list is exactly the table that I have here. The difference is I have only 2 columns. The thing here is that I take the first 1 or 2 and build that into this HTML part where I can give an overview of the data. If I want to drill down, I can then tap on this right arrow here. So this gives kind of an overview of what you can do with Scout. And the important thing here is that we have only a single code base. Even though we cover from desktop to the mobile device, you write the application only once. If you don't like that, you can, of course, target the different devices individually and write screens for the different use cases, for the different things. But this is a transform that you can take advantage of, but you can also say, no, my business is different, I don't want it, so you just leave it away, and you do very focused applications for mobile. It will currently look something like that, but this is very much styled and CSS-based. What you see behind here is Eclipse Wrap. So basically, we're using Eclipse Wrap on the mobile browser, so it's HTML5, JavaScript, CSS. We'll hear more about Wrap afterwards, but I believe what is going to be presented after OTalk is not HTML, but it's using native widgets on the mobile devices. This we don't do here, but maybe we can do something like that in the future and also use these fancy new things of the Eclipse source guys. So now let's look at some diagrams. This should explain how the Scout application looks behind the scene. We have here a typical client-server architecture for the desktop. On the bottom, there's a web server on the server side with the Equinox OSGI and the Eclipse platform. And on top of that, we have the Scout framework. On the client side, we have the same thing here, Equinox OSGI and the Eclipse platform. Again, some Scout client part. This is the framework. The orange part is the framework. And here's the blue part is actually the application. The interesting thing here is that we have a clean separation between the application and the UI that is presented to the user. So whatever we do, if you choose a Swing or an SWT UI, this is part of the framework. This is not part of the application that you build with Scout. So if you don't like this or this, you can remove it and exchange with something that you wrote by your own. We have heard that Oracle is going to kill Swing in the longer term, so this will fade out, and we'll have to put the Java FX box here. But you don't have to change the application here. This takes a lot of pain out of huge applications written specifically for SWT or for Swing or for some other specific framework. If you're not careful, you're going to intertwine too much business logic with UI technology. With Scout, you never have that problem. This is the same thing for the web mobile. The only difference is that we have a web server here as well, and then we're using the wrap part. Basically, this is our mapping of our own widgets that we have with Scout that maps to the Eclipse Wrap project, which is then made available to the same application here. So the application here is the same blue box as before. It's not specific for the web. This is done here. And with a normal browser, you go to access through the application via this path. And now my part has finished, and my colleague has to do some talking now.
Actually, only one slide. I'm talking about a usual application architecture in a like a normal company, and the landscape, how it looks like, and where Scout is gonna take place in it. Usually, an application stack is from the server side. On the very bottom, we have some databases, whatever. Then we have a data access layer, which can be an ESB, enterprise service bus, and a business service layer as well on the ESB, and then starts the whole application stack. That means we have some application backend and an application front end. What Scout is going to do for you is from the server application layer up to the UI. And since we have seen before, the UI is part of the framework, you don't have to care about any UI changes in the future. That might be the change from the desktop application to a web application. You don't have to care about, it's the same application model. And usually, it's as well like that the higher you go in this stack, the shorter is the lifetime of an application part. That means the UI part is the one who changes most, and when you go down to the backend, the database usually doesn't change a lot during the years. And Scout is fully service-oriented and can also provide some business services to the service bus that is showed in this case here. And usually you can access the backend services through some proxy services on the client side. That means it doesn't matter where you are in the client or in the server part, a service call looks exactly the same. And it's behind the scenes, it's OSGI services. Okay, back to you.
Oh, I have to do all the work. The small demo, this is maybe the last part. I'll try to hack a small Hello World Scout application so that you can see how it looks like to write something with Scout. I hope that's going to work fine. I choose a new empty workspace, start Eclipse, throw this one away and say, File, new project. Oh, I have new project, Scout. Make a new Scout project. I give a name, such as org. It's difficult to kind of type. Scout. Hello world. The fancy things that you see here just are the plugins that are built in the background if I create a new application. I have something for the server, something for the client, something that's shared between server and client, such as data transfer objects, permissions, and codes. Then I have per UI representation, I have an additional plugin. Depending on with what I ship, I'll get a SWT swing or a web application out of it. This is a template. This is the simplest possible thing, just a simple form on the desktop, nothing else. I can use an existing grab target because I have tried this in the train before. So it should create the plugins, and once it's finished with creating the plugins, should switch to the Scout perspective. This is the tooling part of Scout, which helps people to get familiar with Scout very quickly, and Andy Hoegger, he's the mastermind behind this tooling part, so if you have any questions in this part, he will be the right person to talk to. What you see here is basically the empty application model of this new Scout application. I have here client share the server. In the client, in this empty template, what it did is I have a desktop form here. So in this desktop form, I can open that. It can see the Java code here. So the whole application model here is represented in Java. There's nothing else. To draw this one, the Java code is parsed in real time in the background and reflected in this tree over there. Let's add a symbol field. In the main box, this is the part that holds all the UI elements. And now you might have to help me, Andy. I have to put some empty somewhere. Where was that? Sorry. Because otherwise it does not look nice.
You actually start with a not.
Okay, you'll fix afterwards.
Exactly.
See, this is, I'm the project management guy, not really. Please excuse. So I just a simple string field, and this I call message. Here I see the multilingual capability. As a programmer, I have from this point I cannot type my text. This is only the key. I have to add the text. So I have here languages like English, German, French, Italian. This one is filled here. I can copy this text to the default English part. And now I have this text here. Now should contain the message field over here. Let me briefly have a look at the whole result. If I click on the top level node, I have here the product launcher, so I can start the thing inside of the SDK. Try to start the Swing UI. This is my Swing UI with the message field. And now what is missing is the round trip to the backend. So I'm still sitting in the client. I have some handlers, the form handlers, which control the life cycle of the form. Inside of the handler, I have the access to the backend. This is, as Andy told before, this is the OSGI services. So this is some convenience to access this desktop process service. I make the connection and say, give me the data from the backend. This means I have to jump to the server part. And inside here, I find my desktop process services. I always have this form and this backend process services that are coupled. This is what Scout does behind the scene. You can have it differently, but this is what is coming out of the box. And inside of that, I have this load method. And this is the data transfer object. So I can put something in here on the backend. Sorry. This get message I have here because when I added the message field as a string field, it did update the form data in the background. So it already knows on the server side that I have this message field on this data transfer object. Let's try to see if you have some effect here. Restart the server, and for now, let's try to use this one. This is the web application, and I can copy this link. I should have now the web application listening there. Where's the Chrome? Okay, I'll take the Fireworks. Should work as well. This is my web application running. I believe the time is out, so after the small demo, there would have been, real fast, some Scout history, some fancy VRBSI and we're growing, some customers where Scout deployments are today from our customers and where we want to go tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Are there any questions?
The client can be web or Swing or SVD, yes. But when I program, which U model I use?
When you use a widget more.
Yeah, which widget I use for when I program buttons, panel, and so on.
Maybe you should talk into this one.
Yeah. Okay, when I understood the question right, then it is which widgets are used behind the scenes. Actually, the Scout is only an application model. That means it has no import at all for a SWT or a Swing class. And afterwards, there is a UI layer which uses the standard widget toolkit of SWT, Swing, or wrap. And this guy says whenever in the model shows up as an example a text field or an instance of an abstract text field, then I know how to represent it. And I take this model and read the whole data, display to the customer. And if you want to have more widgets than Scout comes with, Scout comes probably with about 30 to 40 widgets. If you want to have more, then you can use an extension point and add the framework your own widgets. Yeah?
Can you easily write unit tests for application Scout? Okay.
Can you easily write?
Can you easily write unit testing for application of written Scout?
Yeah, we can. Since the application is an application model, you can test UI-less. And the UI part, this is part of the framework. And we have a whole bunch of UI tests which test every night in every build the whole UI for you. That means you can only test your application model, client-side or server-side, or just test the services, and then you're done, you're fine, yeah.
What about the rendering of widgets, since Scout is not tied to a UI layer directly, right?
Yeah.
So you can choose SWT, for instance, or Swing. Can you force a way of rendering some widgets, for example, a table? It's something.
Yeah, you can exchange everything in rendering. Yeah.
So how can you do this?
With an extension point. Actually, every widget is for every widget there is a provision, an extension which says whenever this guy shows up in the model, I know how to represent it in a certain UI layer. And if you want to have another rendering of a table, as example, then you can just add a new extension to the iTable field. It's called iTable field, the interface, and then you are the representative of it. Okay, if you have any more questions, we're gonna be around, and I wear a yellow shirt, you probably will find me again. Thanks a lot.